Okay, so for part two, the first page is going to look exactly the same as part one. This is because this is just the directions and a little checklist to make sure that you're doing all of the things you're supposed to, right? So we're going to write a two-paragraph essay comparing and contrasting the economy of the three regions. In those two paragraphs, we're going to make sure that we mention what types of crops they grew, the purpose of the crops, the types of farming, the jobs that were available, and the types of workers. So here's how you're going to do it. You're going to go to the second page. And the directions here say part two, time to put it into paragraphs. Use the table you created in part one to compare and contrast the colonial regions in paragraph form. All that means is that you're going to write in full sentences what was similar about the colonies and what was different. Right? And then I just put a reminder that I am here during those remote learning sessions to help you. So I gave you sentence starters for the first one. If you want to reword it and not use my sentence starters, that is totally okay. Right? But I did put them here if you want to use them. So, for example, in the beginning, it says the colonies in the New World were very similar to each other in some ways. For example, the southern and middle colonies, both. What you're going to do is go back to your part one, where you have does the comparing and the contrasting. And there you're going to find exactly what you wrote. So if you look back on your chart and what you see is under southern colonies and middle colonies, they both had similar, maybe they both have similar types of farms. Okay, that's a hint. They both have similar types of farms. So when I write, for example, the southern and middle colonies, both, I'm not going to say have similar types of farms. I'm going to say both, as ever loads. Right here, they both had more than similar farms. I'm going to say here is that in something it says that, then it says the southern and New England colonies. You write something they both had in common. New England and middle colonies. Right. Then lastly, some similarities that all three of the colonial regions had in common. That's where I want to write. That the first thing that I noticed was that when it comes to farming, types of farming, right, were that they all had small family. I'm going to put a comma there because I'm going to write more than one thing that they all had in common. Okay, so main points here. What you're going to do is look at what I have on the page, go back to your part one table, look at that table and see what they have in common. You see that they have something in common, you're going to write it in this first paragraph next to the two, or if all three of them have it in common. All right, lastly, it says the colonies were also different in many ways. For example, right there, that's where you're going to find the things in your chart that are only under one colonial region. If you find it only under the middle colonies, maybe right, you'd say, for example, only in the middle colonies, they did something or had something. Right? So an example I would give you is the colonies were also different in many ways. For example, in the New England colonies, their economy was not centered around farming. Right? Remember, they didn't farm very much in the New England colonies. That was something that was kind of very different about the New England colonies, right, compared to the other two. If you're not sure what to write here, go back and see what on your checklist you haven't discussed yet. And use that to look at what part of your table you have to look back to. All right, you guys got this. And of course, as always, if you need help, I am here.